All right, let's get right into it. We're here to break down the blueprint for taking your Australian small business to the absolute next level. We're talking about moving from the day-to-day grind to building a real, scalable asset that works for you. Let's kick things off with this really powerful, kind of counterintuitive idea from another business owner. The key to scaling up? It's all about building a business that doesn't actually need you in it every single second. Seriously, it's not about working harder. It's about building a system so effective that you could step away and it would just keep humming along. That shift from being the engine to being the architect, that's the whole game. So here's our roadmap. We've broken this down into 5 clear pillars. First, we'll talk about the trap almost every founder falls into. Then we'll get into building the engine for growth with solid systems. After that, we'll supercharge it with tech, find the right people to run it, and finally, make sure you've got the fuel and the guardrails to make it all happen safely. Okay, let's dive into this first, absolutely crucial concept. How to escape the trap of becoming the bottleneck in your own business. This is all about making that mental leap from being the primary doer to being the primary architect. As one entrepreneur put it so well, if you don't have systems, you just spend all your time fighting fires. You know the feeling, right? You're so deep in the trenches, handling every little detail, that you can't even lift your head up to look at the horizon and plan for what's next. You just hit the ceiling that's literally defined by how many hours you can work in a day. So how do you actually escape that founder's trap? Well, you build an engine, a proper engine for growth, and that engine is built on solid, repeatable processes. An entrepreneur who managed to turn a failing company around absolutely nailed it with this thought. Repeatability is everything for scale. Look, if you're reinventing the wheel with every single sale or every new client, you're not actually scaling. You're just creating more work and more chances for things to go wrong. The goal here is consistency and predictability. Now, some pretty smart research from the whole lean startup world gives us a powerful tool for this. It's called validated learning. And look, this isn't about relying on gut feelings or hunches. It's a proper method for proving what actually works with real customers and real data. And that is so critical when you're deciding where to put your time and your money. And this is the engine that drives that learning, the build, measure, learn loop. It's simple, but it's powerful. You start with an idea, you build a minimum version of it, you measure how real customers react with hard data, and then you learn from that data, whether you need to change course or pivot, or if you should keep going. This cycle is how you create repeatable success. So once you've got your systems documented, you've essentially got a playbook. The next move? Give that playbook a serious speed boost, and that's where technology comes in. Right now, the single most powerful accelerator for any small business is, without a doubt, AI. And that's a fair question, right? With all the hype flying around, it's easy to think AI is just for big tech companies with giant budgets. But what are the real, tangible benefits for a small business in Australia, like right now? Let's look at some specifics. Okay, so these aren't just theories. These are real-world results. Just imagine getting a 40% jump in qualified meetings because an AI assistant is handling inquiries on your website. Or think about clawing back 2 to 3 hours of tedious manual work for every single new person you hire. Or what about using AI to predict which customers are about to leave and then cutting that number by 15%? These are real bottom-line impacts. And the best part? You don't need a massive IT budget to get started. I mean, tools like ChatGPT for content, Veed for video, Flick for social media, and Lavender for sales emails, they're all super accessible, they're affordable, and you could literally start using them this afternoon. You can start automating parts of your system right away. Okay, so you've got your systems and your tech in place. The next big multiplier is people. You have the playbook, you have the tools, but you need the right team to actually run the plays and execute on your vision. You simply cannot scale alone. And for anyone listening in Australia, this part is so critical. Hiring isn't just about finding a good person, it's about being compliant. So here's a really straightforward checklist for you, covering everything from defining the role and budgeting for super and insurance, all the way to setting up single-touch payroll for the ATO and giving new hires the right fair work statement. Getting this stuff right from day one saves you massive headaches down the track. This insight from another business owner just captures the goal perfectly. It's not about you doing more. It's not even about your first hire doing more. It's about finding people who can take ownership of your systems, run them, improve them, and free you up to focus on the next big thing. And you gotta remember, as a small business, you have this incredible advantage over the big corporations. You can be nimble. You can hire for attitude, for passion, for someone who just gets your culture. You can always train someone on a specific piece of software, but you can't train a great attitude. So prioritize finding people who believe in what you're building. All right, let's talk about the final piece of the puzzle. It's the stuff that's essential but often gets overlooked. You need fuel to power your growth, and you need guardrails to keep you from crashing as you start picking up speed. We're talking about funding and legal protection. When it comes to funding your growth, there's a really smart hierarchy to follow. The first and best choice is always using your own profits. Why? Because it's cheap and you keep 100% control. If that's not enough, your second choice is usually debt. It's not ideal, but you pay it back and you still own your whole company. Only as a last resort should you think about selling equity, because that means permanently giving away a piece of the business you've worked so hard to build. Now, if you do need to look for money outside of a standard bank loan, these are the most common paths. And they range from pretty hands-off options like crowdfunding, all the way to really hands-on partnerships with venture capitalists. Just know that each one of these comes with very different requirements and expectations for your business. And please, think of this as your risk checklist. A weak employment contract could mean your best ideas walk right out the door. Lousy data security isn't just a tech problem, it's a massive trust problem with your customers. Answering no to any of these isn't just a risk, it's a potential company killer. So let's end right where we began, on this idea of making yourself unnecessary. Here's a challenge for you this week. What is one small system you can build to make yourself just 10% more unnecessary? It could be as simple as documenting how you respond to new leads or how you pack an order. That small step, that's how you begin the journey from being the worker to becoming the architect of your business.